Hello everyone, welcome back to Jacqs and thanks for joining me today. So I haven't made a card in a very long time it seems, and I wanted to get back into the groove of making cards and doing our What a Card Wednesdays. So I've always wanted to make this one kind of card, and I found it in the Papercraft Inspirations magazine. This is actually from 2016, but I had it on my shelf. And I wanted to make this kind of card. Here it is up close. I don't know what they call it. Just says 3D winter scene. A cascade card. So that's what we'll be trying to make today, as it will be my first time. So let's get started. For this project, I'll be using DCWV White Christmas. I love this collection. It's just green, white, and gray. And you need to take 2 pieces of cardstock and cut them down to 5.5 by 12. Now, these are double-sided cardstocks, which will make it a little bit easier. You won't have to do all the pattern piecing if you use plain white cardstock, but you could certainly do that as well. The next thing we're going to do is score some lines on our papers with the 12-inch across the top. And we're going to score at 2-inch, 4-inch, 6, and 8. And then our final score mark will be at 10. You're going to repeat that on your second piece as well. Now there is some measuring that you need to do for this particular project. So from the left-hand side, we're going to measure down on the 5.5 side. We're going to measure down 2 1/4 inch and make a little mark there on your paper. I'm going to do that on the second piece as well. It doesn't have to really be exact. It'll all come out in the end. Now, this shows actually using a craft knife and the craft mat to cut an angle, but I'm going to try to use my cutter. So I'm going to align the cutting blade at the 2 1/4 mark, and we're cutting kind of at a diagonal all the way up to the right-hand corner. Okay, it's going to be a little bit hard for me to show you this, but I'm moving the paper where the blade will line up with my 2 1/4 inch mark on my paper. And then I'm going to turn the paper to where the point is at the cutting blade as well, here at the top. Okay? Just make sure everything gets lined up. That's as if you're using a cutter to do it. If you use a craft blade and mat, then that'll be different. Okay, so when I was cutting it, it actually moved it a little bit. So I had a square instead of a point at the end of that, but I don't really think that will matter much. I think what I'll do for the second piece is line these up and make a pencil mark down the whole page. And then I can follow that mark. Okay. So now we have our 2 pieces cut. Yeah, they match up. Now that we have our papers cut, what we need to do is some more measuring and marking. And so you're going to need a ruler, a pencil, and then of course your paper. So on your shorthand side, you're going to measure down 1 1/4 or whatever is the 1/2 inch point to your shorter side of your paper. On your longer side, you're going to measure down 2 3/4 and make a mark there. again, it should be the halfway point between the mark, the end of your paper. We're going to then line up this point and your smaller point together at an angle. And instead of drawing a line, wherever you have an embossed line, you're going to put a little dash at the 2, 6, and 10 mark. Okay, I hope that makes sense. What you're doing is creating guides. So if you see here, that was my mark, and I used that to line it up with this one here. We put our mark at the 2, 4, and 6 embossed line. Now what we're going to do is take our scissors and we're going to cut up from the bottom. So where that embossed line is here, we're going to cut up to the point that we made. Okay? And then you're going to do the same for the other 2 marks. It's kind of hard to see my embossed lines. Now we're going to do the same thing with our second piece. Measure at 2 3/4. Measure at 1 1/8 or whatever is the halfway point. Put your ruler at the point of this hash mark here and at this hash mark. And now you're going to make your marks again. Go to the first embossed line, put a little point, skip, do the 6, and then the 10. So you're skipping every other score line, okay? This time when you cut, you're going to cut from the top of the paper. On this one, we cut from the bottom. Okay, now that we have our cardstock prepared, what we're going to do is some interlocking of the 2 pages together to actually create the card base. So I'm going to take one of these cards, and where we didn't do any marking or any cutting, which was at the 4-inch score line and the 8-inch score line, what we're going to do is fold on those. Now you can fold these whichever way that you want your pattern to show up, or if it's just white cardstock, it doesn't matter. For this one, I'm going to fold where the green and white is more on the outside. So we fold and burnished that score line. We're going to fold over on the 8-inch embossed score line here, 8-inch score line, and burnish. So you have like this little book. When you open it, it's like a Z fold, okay? That's what they call a Z fold. So we're going to take our next piece where we cut up into the page. We're going to fold back on the 4-inch score line and burnish. On the 8-inch score line, we're going to fold backward and burnish. And on this one, you have an S fold, okay? So there's the difference, Z fold, S fold. Okay, with our Z and S folds, what we're going to do now is interlock the 2 pages together to create the base of your card. Okay, so we're going to take these and interlock them. We're going to put the 2 cut lines together and then push them all the way in together. Let's do the next one. And then the final one. So when you're done and they're all connected, it looks like this. And then you can collapse it. And then you have your card base. Now, if you have to straighten out the pages, you can, but that's what it looks like in the end. Really cute. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is decorate this. So I'm going to get what I need to decorate it, and I'll be back. So for decorating, I cut out a few pieces using my Cricut. It worked today. So I have this tree, a fence, which I absolutely love how that looks. I have a little Santa sleigh here and a couple reindeer. These turned out really well in that paper that I used. So I'm going to be layering them on the card base. I even have a smaller tree. To put the big one on, I'm going to use sticky dots, some 0.5 raised sticky dots. That way there'll be some give when they open and close the card. Just going to line this up here with the base of the card. Let's make sure everything is squared off there. Just going to kind of center this a little bit. Oh, it keeps sticking. And I'm putting that right down the center. But, you know, using the sticky dots, there's one on each side. There's nothing stopping the movement, really, of the card, okay? So that's important to remember. Okay, so here is our final card. The measurements come out to 4.5 by 6.5 when counting the overhangs from the card base. So just be aware of that. You would have to make your envelope then, you know, according to however the size comes out with the counting the overhangs. But I love how this turned out. Here it is kind of separated a little bit so that you could get the full dimension of it. And I took a lot of inspiration from the magazine, but I just love the deers and the trees and the sleigh all together here. Very pretty. And I just love the pop of pink that was in the Merry Christmas sentiment that I added. I wish I had more of those. I would duplicate this card, and I wish I would have started earlier in the year so that I could send some out to people. But I'm loving this, and I also wanted to mention you could add another, you know, piece of white cardstock here in the back to write your message on to your recipient. And yeah, that is it for today. So I hope you enjoyed this, and if you make it, please tag me. I would love to see it. Thanks a lot, everyone. See you next time.